we'll get started officially in just a minute or two. And we have till the bottom of the hour to get the number. And then the market will go into price discovery, and we might get a chance to trade it a little bit, in which case we will. And if not, then I will just jump right into introduction and kind of a preview of the upcoming class. But between now and the bottom of the hour, I'm not going to do too much of that. I'm going to do a little of it, but I don't want to get started on that, the class material preview, and then have the news hit us and take us off topic. So meanwhile, any questions or comments, please stick them in the chat. I will jump right in. I've kind of taken everything off my screen that isn't kind of directly related to Jigsaw. How much does Jigsaw cost? It has two prices. And just to be clear, I don't have anything to do with Jigsaw, the company that makes the product, other than an affiliate now and then. I'm just I'm a power user for 8 years and I really like the platform. I believe the base cost is about $500. And then if you're live trading, there's a monthly fee for live access, which is $50, but you can get discounts on both of those a variety of ways. JBC, could you stick the link up in the chat that goes to Jigsaw or Trader, or TRG1?
You got it.
But let me answer this another way, Roman. I realize people have budgets they have to adhere to, and that's real. But let me say another comment. For example, as we're doing this session, somebody's going to ask me, I trade huge amounts of micros as opposed to trading the minis most of the time because it's easier it's more granular. I can be more precise. I get 10 entries into one instead of 1 into 1. And the immediate response I always get is, well, what about all the extra commissions? And people that are looking at trading that way are really looking at it wrong, because the commissions are a cost of doing business. But doing business is the most important part. Making money trading. The cost of the tools should just be, getting in the door. Now, obviously, for some people, if you can't afford it, it's a barrier to entry. But your approach to trading tools shouldn't be what's the least expensive one. It should be what is the one and the one or ones that does what I need when I need it. So just wanted to make that point. Is it have sense to go to oh, absolutely, you don't need Jigsaw for this class at all. And at the end of the class, we're going to offer a little bit of a incentive for those that want to pick it up. But the things that you're going to see me do on Jigsaw can be done on some other platforms, more or less. There's certain things that can't be. There's a couple of them, and I'll point those out. But understanding the market vertically like this is critical. And there's only 2 or 3 platforms that will show you volume and price vertically like this and break it into bid and ask. For example, there's nothing, the NinjaTrader DOM doesn't do that. So trading on a NinjaTrader DOM is literally worthless as a DOM. You're better off, not using it because it doesn't give you all the information you need. But you can do it in Sierra chart. It's not quite as elegant, the order entry and whatnot, and I'll talk about that. There's a few others that have a decent DOM out there. I think Quantower does. But the point is, you should be looking for the best tools. This is a business, and you're handicapping yourself if you're looking for deals. Seriously. But yes, you definitely don't need it for this class. In fact, if you have it and you're trying to kind of trade along with me during the class, you're making a massive mistake, because you're not going to be paying attention clearly enough to learn what I'm going to teach, because I'm going to be teaching scalping. Let me be really clear about what the class is about. I'm teaching scalping using Jigsaw. And so you will see how Jigsaw does things and why I think it's so superior. But a lot of the benefits from taking the class will be understanding how to scalp MNQ and NQ consistently, profitably. So absolutely not required. Great question, by the way. Keep them coming. Let's see, Jeffrey, how do you get your trade window to show all your accounts on the drop down? Yours only, you just need to reload it. If you restarted Rhythmic, it won't reconnect to it until you reload Ninja. Are you using the bridge, Jeffrey? You can do it in Sierra, you just have to click more. Actually, that's not correct, Renaud. You can't do it by clicking. That's the problem unless you write your own menus and whatnot, in Sierra, you have to drag your orders. And that's the problem. I can click orders really quickly in Jigsaw and move them around. For example, here, let me just throw up a quick sim trade here, just so this doesn't ruin my statistics. I'll do an NQ over here. Let's say, I'm going to be long here. So now I'm long. Okay, and so you can see I'm long 50, 75, and it's bipping around there, one tick up, one tick down. Okay, let's say I put a target, I want to sell here, and the market starts to drop. I click, and that target moves. No dragging, no dropping. You cannot do that in Sierra Chart. It doesn't work. You have to program that, and it's tricky, very tricky. So
you can set it. Nope. So just to be clear, you can set it to allow for right clicking, but the thing that drives me crazy, I don't like at all, is how Sierra handles is that you have to right click in the correct column depending on whether you're long or short. So you have to be doing these mental gymnastics, and Jigsaw doesn't do that. It's much better at that.
Yeah. Again, this is the one thing that I'll unequivocally tell you: there is no platform that can do what you just saw me do.
Yep.
And that, if you are a scalper, that's the difference between profitability and not profitability. Because scalping, particularly in something like NQ or CL, you have to be ridiculously nimble. If you're not, you'll just get run over. You'll be right and you'll still lose money. And so managing your risk in a trade is critical. The first thing you should do when you open a trade is switch your mind to risk management. Forget targets, forget profit. It's only risk management. And it's critical to be able to do that. So the more efficiently you can do that, the better you'll be. So let's leave that one there. We can come back to that topic if we need to. I will talk more about differences. Good luck with the asking Sierra chart for that. They don't consider it a feature to do it this way. So anyway, let's see. Never been able to show multiple counts on the drop-down menu in the trade. Just paid for a live license from Jigsaw. Jeffrey, this isn't the place for troubleshooting. I'll try to help you with that someplace else. But do you have the bridge connected and all that? If you do, just restarting everything should fix it. But this is not the forum for Jigsaw troubleshooting. Like I said, I'll attempt to help you in the pit. But that happens to me when, for example, let's say I add some evals or I add a funded account, and Jigsaw and Ninja are already running. Then that's when that will happen. And if you just restart it, it'll reconnect to Rhythmic and go get them. Anyway, let's move on from that one. So we have about 8 minutes till the number. So again, dual mission today. I want to have a little fun scalping the NFP number. Should be an interesting reaction today. And
you want to talk at all about what NFP is for maybe those who aren't familiar with it?
Yeah. I will. Getting there. Thank you.
Okay.
NFP, non-farm payrolls, monthly employment reports. Basically, here's why it matters. The report. And the reaction to it, but we trade the reaction to it. But the report will influence the Fed as to whether they continue being aggressive with interest rates and how aggressive they are. That's why this matters, and that's true of almost every economic announcement we're getting right now. It's all about the Fed. So, good point. And let's jump back a second. We have about 7 more minutes till we get there. So real quick, a couple more introductory things. I'm Jeff. I'm one of the co-founders of TRG along with Lee Harris. The person talking to me is JVC, as we call him, Jonathan. He's our community manager. And, one second here. Just want to get a cough out. And so welcome, everybody. That's who your hosts are. I have been trading since 1973, options beginning, then index options, traded a lot of equities along the way. I became almost exclusively a futures trader in the early 1990s, electronically. I used to go to the floor a lot. I was never a pit trader, but I had a lot of friends that were, and I used to trade from there too. But not me in the pit, but me signaling my friend to trade for me in the pit, that kind of thing. That used to be a fun time to go to the gallery back in the day. Anyway, so I've traded electronically a long time, and the point I want to make before we get to the number is the thing that totally changed my electronic trading game was Jigsaw. I was on eSignal and TradeStation before that, and XTrader, which is the precursor to TT. There's no platform you could name I haven't traded on. I have Sierra Chart running right here. I use it for context, by the way, and I'll pop that up every now and then like this so we can see the footprint structure of the market as the order flow goes back and forth. So anyway, Jigsaw really made the difference. And One of the things I realized when I was putting together the material for this class was Jigsaw's a big box of tools, and you can use any or all of them any different way. And you're seeing me using the ones that are kind of the highest level expert stuff. But during the class, I'm going to kind of show how I got here too. And I think that's really important because learning how to read the market vertically like this quickly and make good trading decisions, it takes a lot of practice. There's no secret sauce. There's no magic indicator says buy here, sell here. That's all nonsense. It's just practice. It's a learned skill. And that's that. Okay, a couple of good questions.
Why don't we just do a quick, for the people that aren't in TRG who are attending today, why don't you just put a note in the chat as to how you look at the market? Are you using a dome today, or are you mainly looking at charts? You know, how are you trading? Just type chart or dome. Let's get a sense for who's here. No one's here.
Okay, while you guys are doing that, let me answer a couple questions that are in the chat. Do I scalp every time the same futures? Yeah, I pretty much trade NQ and MNQ, but sometimes I trade CL, GC, but NQ is the holy grail of index futures for me. It's got the rhythm and the range. That's the thing that I really like about it. We'll come back to that, and I'll talk about that a lot during class. Can Jigsaw use Denali data? No. That is actually the only thing it can't do. Jigsaw, straight out of the box, is multi-broker, multi-account. You can select just by dropping down on those menus I was just using, but they don't. Sierra Chart doesn't cooperate with them. So you can literally use every other feed simultaneously except that one. Good question. That doesn't mean you can't have Sierra Chart as a resource like I just showed. I use it that way. I just don't trade through that data feed. I trade through a Rhythmic or a CQG. Actually, in this case, several of each. Let's see. The question was, do you trade using a dome or charts? Okay, I missed that one back there.
Yeah, I was just repeating the question, George.
Okay, no, I don't use charts at all. There are no charts on this screen other than these little NinjaTrader windows here, which I'll explain a little later. That's just a linear regression of the very, very short-term range. And I don't trade off of those. I just use it as a reference for, where is extreme. Using regression, and I'll explain that. Let's see, footprint and chart, NinjaTrader with MZ pack. Okay, dumb. All right, did that answer your question, Lee? Do you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I'm trying to get a sense. There are non-TRG members who are guests here today, Jeff. How are they looking at the markets today? What's the nature of their trading? Are they looking vertically? Are they looking at TA-oriented charts?
That's a great question.
So we've had 3 people so far tell us.
Which data am I using? Right now, I'm running, as I said, I'm running a CQG data feed. I'm running a Rhythmic feed with Apex, and I'm running my own cache Rhythmic feed with Iron Beam. So I'm running 3 different data streams right now, but you don't need to do that. Number one, it's a great backup. And number 2, I can trade multiple accounts at the same time on one Jigsaw. All right, real quickly, before we get to the number, it's about 2 minutes away. I want to just tell you what you're seeing on my screen. As I said, these guys over here, these 4 black charts, that's NinjaTrader. And I won't really explain that in detail. Maybe after we get the number, I'll look at that real briefly. But this down in the lower left-hand corner is the Jigsaw economic release. As you can see, it's coming up, NFP. I've got a couple of tapes running of NQ. This one's just showing some blocks above 5. This is showing every trade. And that is a reconstructed tape. That's not just time and sales, reconstructed with the CME algorithm. And then left to right, this is an MNQ dome here on the far left for this account. This is another MNQ dome that I can trade a different account on. At the moment, I'm not going to do that. Sometimes I'll trade a PA and an eval or a PA and a cash account at the same time, and not copying them, I'll trade them separately. I also do copy, but I won't be in this session doing any copying. This is NQ tick by tick here, and you can see it's a rather long range right now. We have the high to the low. We're just below the value area down near the lows, you can see, but the low itself is pretty far down. This next chart over here, this next dome, let me turn on the spotlight. You can follow my mouse a little bit easier. I apologize, I cannot make my mouse bigger. Zoom will minimize it back to this size no matter how big I make it. So, okay, this dome here is NQ, but unlike this one over here, it's not tick by tick. It's crunched together 4 ticks at a time. So we're seeing 1 point as opposed to, 25, 0.25, 0.5, 0.75. And that allows me to see a tighter range. I can see the whole thing, like the whole value area is this blue, and over here it's in green and it's huge. I can't see where anything is. So that's why I do that. Also running the liquidity next to it, which is what this is. That is the Auction Vista liquidity heat map, and that's showing me where there are buyers and sellers in the order book. Important to understand that the order book is not trading. It is what people say they are going to do, not less necessarily what they are doing. Whereas the DOM volume trading you see printing here, those are traded volume. Those trades have actually happened. And it's important to understand that that's what matters, not what people say they're going to do on the DOM with orders. Okay, let's go ahead and let the number here play out, see if we can catch a quick scalp one way or another here. Looks like and by the way, I never care what the number is. I just watch the reaction. I'm trading the reaction. The number itself is meaningless. And let's see, there could be a long down here if we could push down maybe to the low 60s, bottom of the current value area, but this is pretty much two-way. This is where these things are useful, these LRCs. We can kind of see, we kind of blew out of the recent regression range and it's trying to price it in. So at the moment, it's a little bit tricky to do anything. Yeah, again, there could be a long down here, but it needs to come down a little lower. Let's try it if we can get a little lower down here. Maybe, there it goes, swept down. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, we're getting close. I put an order in there, see if we can catch a fill on a push down. Not that I think this is a great market to buy. It's just, here we go. This kind of volatility is very tradable. Let's see if we can grab a quick $50 bill just as an example of that. I like to think of my DOM as an ATM. So there we go. All right, that was not 50, that was 100 because I doubled it up right on that absorption. And so that's an example of how I scalp on the Jigsaw DOM. Try doing that on a chart. You wouldn't even see that price movement. And more importantly, you wouldn't see the absorption I'm seeing right here. All this trading into the bid, and it's not going below that area. And so that's a decent spot for a quick scalp. And you need to learn to read the market that way if you want to be a good futures trader, because by the time something gets prints on a chart of any interval, I mean, this chart over here is 5 seconds, and it's not tracking that movement well enough to trade it. Even if I zoom way in, I can't see that type of trade setup that I just did. And that right there is the power of using the market vertically, and particularly the execution on Jigsaw. Let's see if we can catch another one of those real quick, and then I'll do a little more. Ooh, right there. That was a good spot. It blew right through there, and then it got exhausted. I might just miss that. Let's see if we can catch it. Yeah, that should get filled. Oh, missed me by a tick. I'm going to reset this one DOM just so we can watch the volume. These are accumulating volume, and I'll explain that in just a minute. I'm still probably a bit too low down there. Let's try to catch right where it exhausted just for a quick pop again. The trick, if you're going to scalp the DOM, particularly when it's in news discovery like this, is to really be nimble and just go for a bunch of quick winners, and that usually plays out pretty nicely. We made $111 on that last scalp we did, and I was using 5 micros, and then I added 5 more, so it was a total of 10 micros. But it much easier again to do that way than to try to do it with 1 mini, which would have been the equivalent of the 5 and 5 micros. I call that type of risk management where I put a trade on of a certain quantity, and then I'll double it if it holds right around that area. When I see the momentum start to build that I'm looking for, I call that a 1+1 style of risk management. And we teach that in TRG pretty much every day when I do my sessions. Okay, here it comes again. Let's see if we can get a fill down here. It's right at the bottom of the current value. Right there, just below 70. Come on, you can get me. Come on, baby. Got it. Okay, well, how about $50 for a target? And now let's see, it's getting sold here a little bit. Let's take $45 instead. There we go. So now we have $180 and wash, rinse, repeat. That's how I use Jigsaw, whether it's news volatility like this, or during the session when it's calmer. It's a powerful set of tools. It really is. So let me pause for a second here, and then another push down. Interesting. Again, I wouldn't just keep buying this low. I'm buying what I consider to be inflection points for quick scalps. I'm not saying this is a market to get long in, just to be really clear. In fact, I don't like the scalp there now, because it's continuing to sell off. And this is where this tape is useful. So this is the one I'm looking at blocks on. And what's happening is we're slamming into the bid and we're pushing below it and making a lower and lower bid. So we call that slamming the bid. And that means there's an aggressive amount of selling going on right now. You can see on the heat maps, these circles are high volume nodes. And let me filter those a little bit so we've got a little bit fewer of them. Make it a little easier to see. So this one right here is a really good example. We traded to that and it didn't get bought, it got sold. And now we're below that. And so those are very powerful little tools. Again, they don't say buy here, sell here. They tell you what's going on. And as a good trader, that's all you need to know. What is going on in the trade? Who's winning? Are buyers or sellers dominant? How do you see that? Well, is it trading on the bid or is it trading on the ask? That's critical. And as it approaches liquidity, does the liquidity trade or not? So for example, right in here, this spot, this white right here, was an area of a lot of liquidity. We came down to it very quickly. It traded almost exclusively on the ask, and then we went right down below. So what does that tell you? It tells you we got there, people started buying, and they, for every buyer, there was a seller and they ran out of buyers. So down we went. That's how you read that. And again, not rocket science, it's just practice. And no indicators, you're just looking at the traded volume and various inflection points. And every Tuesday in the TRG this month, I'm doing a series of classes called Care and Feeding of Inflection Points, because one of the beauties of this approach to the market is you can see inflection points forming. I've shown you a bunch of examples of that. In fact, let's see if we can catch another one down here. See this liquidity right here? We're trading to it at 44. Does it trade and we go through it? Look at the bid getting slammed. Or does it hold? Well, for the moment, it's holding. Let's see if it does. If it boom, it got sold. See what I mean? So it tells you, okay, Jeff, that's an inflection point. Pay attention. It's either a long or a short, if you can do it fast enough. And it said, well, that was a short. And so, if I wanted to get short there, I could have. But the point is, you're seeing inflection points as they're forming. And if you look at a chart, even ridiculously fast one, this is 5 seconds. There's no way to see any of those things happening. All you're seeing is the price. And the price is powerful, as is the range of the price, but you don't want to trade just off that. You have to know what is going on in the auction. This is getting crushed now. You'd be insane to try to buy this, at least until it forms some sort of bottom. And, look at the amount of volume trading into the bid, and we're going right through it. So really, really good way to see what's actually happening. And again, if you're on any sort of chart, you have no idea this is happening. All you can see is the price. You can't see all these other elements that are contributing to where the price is. Okay, let me pause for a minute and see. Okay, we had a bunch of people answer the question there. Do you want to follow up on that, Lee?
It's more just to get a sense of who's looking at what and how, and familiarity with order flow, traded volume, that kind of thing. So, okay. We have 3-4 people out of maybe 12 who are on the call who aren't in TRG or been through our education. So not a big data set, but encouraging. We've got a couple of people at least who are looking at footprints and things like that.
Got it. Okay. So anyway, I was interrupted when the number came. I was explaining that this was the ES DOM, and that was the liquidity for ES next to it, NQ DOM, ES, and then the far right is YM and RTY. Which, there's a lot of power to looking at whether the indexes are correlated or not. And right now they're correlated down very aggressively. I want to put one or two other quick things back up. Whoa, not that big though. I look at the range. This is just a little Sierra chart, quote board of the range. And I also look at the correlation like this. So I've got a little market analyzer and I'm just comparing, everybody's down roughly equivalently right now, but the volume is pretty aggressive. Ooh, this is looking like a potentially interesting spot right here. Let's see if that holds. Just for fun. That's so far off of value now. If I can catch along there, I was actually a little late seeing that. But here we go again. See this absorption right here? It traded down there very aggressively, and then the buyers really stood up, and now we're above it. Okay, up there it got sold. So we have a really nice little range now. 40 up here, at low 20s here, high 30s. So this is worth watching right now. It's kind of finding value. One other quick thing about what's on my domes. The blue line is the VWAP on each one of these volume profiles. So we're well below it now. And, again, the VWAP isn't that useful. this early in the session, which hasn't really started yet, the pre-session. But again, if I see that aggressive absorption, now there's more aggressive there. Let's see if it trades through that. It did. Okay, this could be a long if it pushes down to me and I don't get totally run over. So let's see if we can grab that one. I'm going to reset this dome. I can still see the volume over there, but I want to watch it as it's happening. So in Jigsaw, there's several columns here on my my dome, and you can configure those any way you want. And this is something interesting I'll tell you about Jigsaw. I started using it in 2014, and it took me a good year and a half to configure it because there's just so many different things it can do. And I pretty much stuck with domes like this and the view you're seeing since about 2016. And here we got our fill. Okay, let's throw up a quick target and see if we can make this work. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. There it is, another $50. Wash, rinse, repeat. The power of inflection points and vertical scalping using a very, very good tool, and that intelligent order management that I showed you a minute ago. So anyway, the columns, I started to talk about that. So basically there's 3 columns on any one of these domes. The far right is just a volume profile, and the only tool I have on there, I don't use POCs. I show the value area and the VWAP. That's it. That's all you need. The trick in good trading is get rid of everything you can get rid of. The more stuff in your face, the less quality you'll have in your decision making. So you always want to have as few things to look at as possible. The columns to the left of the volume profile, this one, Jigsaw total trades. And unless I reset it, it will show me the bid volume and the ask volume, the traded bid volume and ask volume for however long I have it running. You know, I can run it for the session, I can run it any interval I want, and if I reset it, it will give me a new one. So for example, I'll reset that over here on this dome, and you can see it just starts accumulating the volume again. And there's a lot of techniques you can use as to how you use that and where you reset it if you do. I will be going into that in the class in a lot of detail because you want to be able to see those inflection points like I was just showing you. The column to the left of that, also bid and ask, is called current trades. And what it does, I'll reset it on this one again. What it does is it shows the traded volume at a price, and it leaves it current like that. It leaves it at, the terms are going to kill us here. It leaves it up and as that number until it trades there again, and then it resets and prints the traded volume at that price. So you're getting what was the traded volume the last time that it reached this price. And again, this is critical information because it shows you inflection points. It shows you who's aggressive. Are the buyers winning here? Or are the sellers winning here? Unless you have that information, if you are trading futures, you're at a massive disadvantage. I don't care what chart tools you're using. I don't care whose footprint you have. I don't care what your indicators tell you or what your algorithm says. You have to watch the traded volume, and you have to compare it to the liquidity. Like right here, we just traded down in a couple of instances, actually, correction, we traded up. So here we traded up to liquidity. We blew right through it. We traded up to liquidity, blew right through it, and now it's reasserted itself. There's more people put up bids there at that exact same spot. So you can see there's an aggressive trader or traders right there, right here where we are now. So let's reset that spot and watch it. Might be able to catch another trade. Yep, buying. And you know, that's all you need to look at. And boom, there's a trade. Okay, let me see. Which data am I using? I think I covered that one already. This is a couple of rhythmics and 2 CQGs in various accounts. Had Jigsaw since 16, could never get consistent or confident with it. Well, then this class is for you, Colin. I've had it since then too. And when I first started using it, I really had trouble understanding. I watched all the videos. I took Grady's class. I took the Axia classes. And then I just said, screw it. I dove into the tools, and one by one, I took everything off. I didn't use the defaults, and I reconfigured it bit by bit until I understood how it worked. And since then, I've never looked back. I've been a consistently profitable trader for 50 years, but my profitability was up an order of magnitude at several, 8, 10 times once I got good at that. Particularly once I started trading some of the more volatile contracts. I used to trade the ES. I traded the YM back in the 2000s when it first came out. There was a big discount on round trips, commissions for it. And but Jigsaw, first of all, you have to understand how it can work for you. And the class will really help you with that. And also how to configure it for what you do and what your eye needs to see. And so I totally understand that sentiment too. It is matter how much money you put into one trade. That's called risk management, Roman. And the answer is very simple. You put as little money into a trade as possible. And if you're a scalper, scaling doesn't make a lot of sense. You go into a trade aggressively, you scale that entry aggressively or not, and then you immediately start looking to take profits. That's what scalping is. If you can protect your profit and catch a runner, that's great. But you always want to use the minimum amount of contracts. That's why I start with blocks of 5 micros, because that's less risky than starting with 1 NQ. And a micro is a tenth. So 10 micros would be equivalent to 1 NQ. And I'm going in with roughly half that risk. So I can immediately look to double it if I like the idea. And you just saw me do that twice. Good question.
By the way, just to clarify, I think, and Roman, please feel free to let me know if I'm wrong, but I think Roman is actually asking about if you use more money in your trade, can you move the market? That's how I'm interpreting that.
Oh, yeah. If that's the question, no. That none of us are big enough to be, to influence the trade. Unless you've got a whole lot more money than I'm guessing. Let me give you some numbers. What does it take to influence the price? Let's just use ES or NQ as an example. It takes 50 lots in ES to move the price around, at least hundreds. If you're that big a trader, good for you. But I have been, but I wouldn't take that kind of risk in this market. No way. So
are you Carl Icahn?
yeah. That's just insanity. So no, that's the beauty of scalping at this level, is that the market is totally liquid for us. There's never trouble finding a counterparty to your trade. If that's the question, also a good question. Let me go on to this. I've answered this already, Stan. There's a number of things you can do in Sierra that you can do are similar. The one you can't do is the most critical one, which is the automatic order management, which I've been showing. Click on the price and it moves your target or your stop. You have to drag in Sierra or write your own menus all over the place. It can't be done. I do scalp. I have scalped in Sierra. I do have a Sierra account. And every time I tried to do what I do in Jigsaw, I lost money. So I don't scalp in Sierra anymore. It's that simple. I still use it. I love it, but it's contextual charting for me. As a scalper, I think that's critical. Here's an example of my 30-minute view in Sierra. And for looking at the structure of the market, there's nothing better. I would say that. Also, there's one third-party thing on here. I just want to be clear. The emoji tool set is on here, Emoji Tools. That's Lee's other company, and great product. I won't be talking about it, but that's what's showing these demand levels and supply levels and whatnot. But again, I don't trade off that. For me, that's just contextual. There are many people in TRG that do trade off that. So, but I'll say this: none of them are scalpers. With one exception. I think the only person I've seen do any sort of decent scalping on Sierra is Lee. And he's an order of magnitude above most of us in Sierra skills. But I think he would also agree with me that for the style of scalping that I do, you're better off in Jigsaw. Would you agree to that, Lee?
I've never really got into Jigsaw that heavily. So,
okay. So you don't know. Okay, fair enough.
I don't know. I get the point of, click on the price and an order lands there. I can understand that, and it deletes what's there. So when you're effectively, what I'm pointing an area I'm interested in. I want the platform to know what I want to do. Yeah, that makes sense for your style.
Yeah. Okay, so here, let me just show you really quickly. I'll throw a short on here just for fun. And let's say, this is my stop here, and here's a target. And I decide, it's not going to get there. Let's protect it better. All I have to do is click on that price, and it will move it. Hang on a second here. Sorry. All right. There we go. So what's happening? Let me just cancel this. I think Zoom sometimes interferes with platforms. I think it's doing to me now, so I just took that off. Let's just do it again really quickly here. And this is what I mean. See, I can move a target around like that, and that makes it very quick to change what I'm trying to do. It's like, let's say this sweeps down. Let's see and again, this is just in a sim, so I can show you this. That's why I put it on here. All right, let's make it a little more interesting setup here. And again, I'm not showing you this as a trade. I'm showing you this to show you the risk management with that. All right, let's put a stop right there, and I want to tighten it up. I just click. See, that's what you can't do in, there we go. Now we've got a profitable long on. Let's protect it, and let's protect it again. See how fast I can move underneath the price? That's what you can't do in Sierra. You'd have to be dragging that around. Okay, so anyway, that's the example. There was a better one earlier when I didn't have Zoom interfering, but it's getting really aggressive again. This is interesting for this late after the number. Anyway, okay, let's go on to the, yeah, okay, so we answered that one. Any other questions, by all means, let me have them. I want to talk, curious, don't know about clicking to move target. My default is set to add a new order instead. Where is that setting? Well, again, this is what's called intelligent order management. So if I have a one contract long on and I put up a limit order above that, it's assuming that that's a target, which is correct. If I don't want to do that, I just turn off auto here. See this auto? And switch it to stop limit, whether you're buying or selling, that's all. But the auto is the intelligence of not having to do that. It just assumes I'm doing a target, which is the correct thing for it to assume. Does that make sense, Bob? Okay, well, answer in the chat when you get a chance if you have a follow-up to that. Okay, so yes, may have seen a demo. Okay, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Always try things in a stem. Don't try things real money when you're doing it. Yeah, they're really cool features, Steve. That, again, I'm not, this is not hyperbole. I've been a profitable trader a long, long time, and this was an order of magnitude difference. I had been trading the futures based on charts until and by the way, I'd been looking at DOMs before that. I just never found anything that worked for me. I had IRT before, and I had played around with market delta, but the execution wasn't there. Yeah, the order flow footprints were great, but I couldn't execute easily on it. And then Jigsaw came along, and I thought, that looks interesting. I'll try it. And as soon as I tried it, I was like, oh, this is really cool. But then again, like I said, it took me a couple of years to figure out how to use it properly. And after that, I never looked back. So that's one of the reasons we decided to do this class. We really wanted to help those people that are struggling with that, because, when there's a powerful tool out there, and if you're an active trader, you owe it to yourself to look at every powerful tool out there and see if it is consistent with your edge and if it makes your edge easier to execute. If it does, you should check it out. And as far as I'm concerned with scalping, there is no better tool. No matter what market you scalp, but if you scalp anything that moves quickly, which is what most people scalp, there's just no way to beat that order execution. And anyway, let me talk a little bit more about the class. We're going to have to wrap up. I have another class, a TRG event, privately coming up in 8 minutes, so I'm going to need to get to that. But before I do, let me real quickly bring up the class link here. Hey, by the way, could you throw a link to the events page in the chat, JVC? I'm going to do the same thing.
I'm going to write it.
Wrong one. I want events. Sorry, my hands are not working because I have a cold. So yeah, if you could put it in there, it'll be easier for me to get to it
there
quickly.
It is.
Okay, here we go. I got it here. Yeah, that's the page I'm showing right now. So this is the boot camp we're going to be doing. Let me just blow this up over everything else so we don't get distracted. I'll see trades I want to take. And this is what we're going to be doing. The first session will be an introduction to the tools. And I'm also going to show you Journalytics. Journalytics is built into Jigsaw. It is a very powerful journaling program, and it will do all the hard work for you. Capture the trade, capture the entry, capture the size, timestamp. All you have to do is decide whether you want to comment on it or tag it or not. And I will be showing that and how I use that. Every time I'm testing a new setup, I use Journalytics. Because journaling when you're testing stuff is critical. Once I have a setup I'm doing really well, I tend to journal less. And again, I'm going to show you how that kind of works for me and how powerful that is. On Monday will be our first live session, Monday the 14th. So this is a week from Monday. We're going to go into the DOM components in a lot of detail, and I'm going to actually configure that in front of you. So you can see how I got to where I got to. And I'm also going to show you their default views and why that didn't work for me. The default Jigsaw view has a lot of information on it that I don't care about. For example, let me show you an example of that. At the bottom of each of these heat maps, you can see these blue and red lines. That's called the flip chart, and that's showing the net stacking and pulling over some number of levels. In this case, I'm using 3 in the order book. So again, the order book is what people say they're going to do, not what they're doing. But still, it's worth keeping an eye on that as a net view. Like, is it net getting pulled or stacked? And at the moment, we're going to the downside in that. So basically, people are pulling bids, and the offers are getting more aggressive. So people are looking to sell, in other words. That's why it turns red. And so that's a really, really powerful tool. The default view of Jigsaw has the stacking and pulling right on the dome at every price level. And you are a better man or woman than I am if you can read that real time. It's just way too much information. So that's one simple example. There are many. Let's go back to the agenda here. Keep an eye on that on the right. So that's what we'll be doing on Monday. On Wednesday, we're going to go in depth into these columns I was talking about, the traded and current volume. And the reason I'm going to spend so much time on that, I mentioned just a few minutes ago. This is just absolutely critical to see inflection points. And again, I just don't know any other platform that does this that well. Sierra does have its version of current and total traded volume. I believe it calls it, help me out, one of the TRG guys. It's current and what is it in?
Sierra is current and recent. Jigsaw is total and current.
Total and current, right. And again, roughly the same idea. But again, the execution is what I can't do in Sierra. The information is definitely there. So we'll talk about that and how to understand liquidity, how to understand the interaction between where people say they're going to trade and whether those trades are actually happening. Look right here on this spot, right here, this big white line. You can see there's a big chunk of liquidity there, and it didn't trade. We came down, we went through that price, and that's when that person or persons put up that liquidity. We came back up to it, a tiny bit of it traded, as in 23, and there's still 63 sitting there, and then it got crushed down. So, for example, if you're long and you see that, you can't get to the flat button fast enough because that's telling you you're just wrong. And that's the power. If you can find tools in the market, I'm not talking about indicators that tell you where to buy and sell. I'm talking about tools that say this spot got sold. And if you correctly understand looking at that, okay, if I'm long, I'm wrong, then that's all you need. There are no buy here, sell here indicators on the planet that are capable of doing that because the variables change too often. It would have to be recoding itself iteratively every time a trade happens. And yeah, maybe the bots will get that smart at some point, but I doubt it. Meanwhile, that information is invaluable. Okay, so on the 22nd, which is Tuesday, the following week, we're going to talk about the R tape. That's the reconstructed tape over here and how I use that. And I showed you an example of that a few minutes ago when the market was getting pushed down really hard. I referred to it as the bid being slammed. That's really powerful. And the reason I run 2 tapes here, one of them is just a little bit of blocks, so I'm filtering 5 or more. And this one, I'm looking at every trade. So this one's showing me momentum. This one's showing me where are the blocks going off and are we below or above that point right now? Why? Inflection points. Okay. Then we're going to go into putting it all together, which is critical. That will be the Thursday session of that week. And then following week, we're going to go into a lot of trading examples of this. So if you want to learn to be a scalper, whether you use Jigsaw or not, this is this whole class you want to be at, but you definitely want to be at this last week because I'm going to show you all the different setups that I use. And there's only a couple. Good traders tend to do the same thing over and over again. Like Bruce Lee said, don't learn 10,000 kicks, practice one kick 10,000 times. That's me. That's what I do. I scalp extremes at inflection points, whether it's an extreme of the volume profile, whether it's an extreme of the session, whether it's a short-term extreme of the range. I look for inflection and I buy or sell it because the odds of that trade working are overwhelmingly high. My scalping win rate is absurdly high. It's north of 95% because of that. And so, the way to read that, it's actually a little too high, but what that means is that if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's really clear, and it's really, I don't want to say easy, but it's very doable to be consistent at the kind of trades I was just showing you, and and just pull $50, $100 bills out at a time using five micros, 10 micros. Now, let me make one point about that. That doesn't mean you can't scale higher. Anything in NQ and ES is scalable at retail to higher than we can afford. That means I could trade 150 micros, I could trade 20 NQ, and that would still work the same way. It's just, again, you want to trade as few contracts as you can because that's how you manage risk. And I will talk about risk management a little bit in the class. I will show you how I use Jigsaw for risk management. And risk management is by far the most critical thing. So that's what we'll be doing the last week. And then the following Saturday, we'll have a big review session. And we hope to have a nice little add-on offer. If those of you that might want to buy it, buy Jigsaw, that is, we're going to try to get a coupon for you. And there's a reminder. It's the top of the hour for me. Let me turn that off. Okay, so anyway, that's basically what we're going to cover. And I think it's a great little class. If there's any questions about any of the agenda items or the syllabus, please put them in the chat. JVC posted the link and a discount coupon. So basically, you can get this class right now for $2.99. And it's 3 weeks of material. I just don't know a better deal out there than that. So I guess that's kind of all I have to say for the moment. Again, I'm a little off this morning because I'm fighting a bad cold and I have a high fever. So, but I promise that will be resolved long before the class. Okay, let's see if we have any questions. There's the discount code. Will we be able to get the class? Yes, everything will be recorded and everything will be available for students. And pretty quickly, we do it as fast as we can and as fast as, the Zoom will render it and Vimeo will render it. And generally within a few hours, certainly by the end of the session day, we'll get the recordings up for you. How many points of NQ do I scalp with? As many as the market gives me. Using I'm looking for a 1-point stop and a 4-point target. That's complete nonsense. People that talk that way don't know how to trade. Trading is about what can the market give you right now, not what you want the market to give you. So I don't think that way, and I recommend that you don't either. Anyone know if we can get a free trial of Jigsaw for the class? Good question. I don't know if he offers free trials. Does anybody know? When you guys go look? I don't think so. But again,
no, I don't think so. I think the one of the evaluators, maybe Tick Trader. I think if you're in an eval with them, you can get Day Trader.
Oh, that's
as
right.
A platform.
Yeah,
so for $50 or whatever, you can test drive it that way and kick the tires.
Okay, so let's go on. Let me answer the other question. So again, just to be really clear, Steve, I don't want people running their own Jigsaw during the class. At the end of the class, that's why we have the wrap-up session. I'll be happy to explain all the stuff about the platform and installing it and whatnot, at least to the extent I can. But you'll miss out tremendously if you're trying to watch it on your computer instead of watching what I'm teaching. So again, that's important. Let me see. Trading, it's not danger to teach us to earn money. Why would I lose any money if you lose money, Roman? I don't understand that.
I think he's asking if trading is risky because he asks if you can lose your money. And
so you can lose more than your money if you're trading a cash account because you're liable for the margins. If you end up, if you put up $3,000 in a futures account and you lose $5,000, they bill you for $2,000. And they have a right to attach your assets. So it's one of the reasons trading with the evaluators and the PAs is such a great deal. Like right now, look at Apex for an example. I'm funded at Apex with a bunch of accounts and also at Lilo and a bunch of other places. But right now you can buy an eval for what, $19 or something. And so, basically, and then the PA fees, so basically it costs you like $160, $170, $180 to buy $2,500 of risk in the market. That's what you're doing. Because that's the drawdown of a quote-unquote $50,000 account. Okay, there's some other really good questions. What markets will I be trading? I'll be demonstrating mostly in NQ and MNQ, but these techniques would work in any liquid instrument. I can show any of the indexes anytime. If somebody wanted, can we do that in ES? A lot harder to do because ES is a lot more liquid and there's a lot more algorithms over there, but I can show it to you. Yes. CL, GC, I trade all of those, but the class will be pretty much focused on the tools, and I'll use mostly the indexes for that example. So that's your answer, Colin. Thank you. Can I trade multiple accounts? I've answered this one already. I can trade as many accounts as I want and as many data streams at the same time. That's what these drop-down menus are. So all I have to do to switch to another account is do that, and I am in a different account. And this is a combination of my cash accounts, Apex evals right now, and Apex PAs. And I can trade all of them at the same time. The account you saw me trading was an Apex account. The account you saw me trading over here is one of my large cash accounts. And I can do them at the same time. I can copy from one to another using a trade copier, which I do, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on trade copying in the class because it's kind of advanced and it's a great way to get in trouble if you're not already a good trader. Okay, let's see. Work on oil. Absolutely. Oil is one of the best liquid markets to trade. Here's the point, and I do it all the time, and I did do it a lot more aggressively a few years ago. But here's the problem with oil right now. One second, I've got a moth in my face here. I'm sorry. Okay. One of the problems with the oil market relative to the indexes is simply you have nothing to look for correlation on. Right now, the market is fairly well correlated with NQ leading up. And so, that's temporarily kind of bullish. When I'm trading CL, the only thing I can see is CL. There's nothing that it's well correlated with, or let me rephrase that, correlated well enough with that there's any sort of edge. So you basically have one input if you're trading oil or gold. And the beauty of trading the equity index futures, NQ, YM, RT, YES, is that you have the benefit of seeing what all the other indexes are doing. And because there are so many instruments that are common to the different indexes, it's very hard for one to move without the others moving. The NASDAQ's very tech heavy. If tech is really strong, the S&P 500 is likely to be strong too, or at least stronger than if it wasn't so tech heavy. See what I mean? So that's an important consideration. And that's why I prefer the indexes, particularly in volatile markets. That was a great question. The bonds, yeah, okay, the bonds, there's some correlations. I don't trade the bonds because they just move too damn slow for me. I've taken Grady's courses, and Grady is the master of bond trading, but I've watched him sit in a trade for 2 hours to get a tick. And that's just not my personality. Let me put it that way. But yes, that is a correlated set of markets. Absolutely. Good questions and comments, Colin. Excellent. Okay, let's see. I think I have covered all the questions. I'm running a little long here, guys, but I'm happy to do that and postpone my other session a minute or two. Actually 5 or 6, but is there anything I missed? Are there any other questions about the class, about Jigsaw? Anything else I can answer before we move on? JVC, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I don't have anything else. And you're referring to another session. Is that like a coaching session you're doing? Because there's nothing on the TRG calendar.
Yeah, no, it's not a TRG event. It's a
okay, cool.
Yeah, but it's a TRG person. That's what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
And unfortunately, they're not in the room. Otherwise, they would know that. And I can't, I need to, so I'm just going to let them wait for me. That's all. Okay, there. Okay, perfect. I see we're being repetitive about the discount code. But, look, we're going to do, let me put this back up here, If you know a better deal out there, then you shouldn't take this class because we're going to do all of these sessions. It's going to be at least 20 hours and it's $299. I mean, can you beat that? If nothing else, you can watch a really good scalper scalp and learn some scalping technique from me. And if you are questioning about my scalping skills, let me just real quickly show you guys. TRG members see this all the time, and this is also in our public stream. This is called The Pit. It's our little community, and I have a stream there called Scalping Micros this morning. And I post most days in the morning. Like the other day, I had a chest infection. I still do. This was my results that day: $253 with just 5 trades. Again, just little blocks of micros. And then, when I feel better, and by the way, look at these. There's a trade I had a loser on. Okay. But I still managed to put up $1,000 that day. If you doubt my credibility, I recommend you go look at this. I've been posting here for 3 years. Here's a $3,300 day with what, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, so maybe 20 trades. Again, micros. See, there's a couple here that are in queue, but mostly micros, just because it's easier to manage risk. Okay, I got to wrap up now. Are there any other questions or comments? Last chance. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, guests. I hope the session was worth your time and that you join us in the class.
And if you haven't already checked out TRG, at a bare minimum, go grab the online courses for $25. And I say this objectively, even though I helped to create them, there is nothing anywhere on the internet that even comes close for $25. For any price really. But yeah, at $25, you will get more about order flow than you will find anywhere else. So definitely check it out.
Yes, thank you, Ted. The $25 class is kind of the foundations of how to read the bid-ask stuff. And that's really, really useful. So even if you don't take our Jigsaw class, I recommend that. And join the pit. It's free to do that.
To be clear, they do have to buy the courses. It's no longer just plain public. So
yeah, right. But if nothing else, the pit is free, right? That's still the case?
No, only for course members.
Oh, I see. Okay, you have to have bought the course. Okay, all right. Yes. See, I don't keep up. I'm a founder. I don't run the place.
And it's below your pay grade.
It's below my pay grade, yeah. This boot camp will repeat later. No, not necessarily, Roman. I do a course and it goes well. It doesn't go well. They always go well. But if there's another set of demand for it, I do it. I run another series called the Scalpathon, and I've done a couple of those this year, and that's very different. It's less about Jigsaw and more about scalping at different times of the day, 24 hours a day. And I don't even have plans at the moment to repeat that. I have nothing on the schedule going forward. So at the moment, no. If you want to take it, I'd recommend you take it now. And if you can't come to the classes, you'll have the recordings and you'll be able to ask questions and whatnot. So it's not like you need to be at every one of those sessions. Okay, real good. Let's go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, once again, and hopefully you'll join us.
We'll see you later today, Jeff, for the closing session, right?
Yeah, I'll be trading the close live for TRG members today, and we'll see you then.
All right. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.